Are you ready? You think you could tell us what to do? You think you could tell us what to wear? You think that you're better?
Justin Herbert or Phillip Rivers?
Oh man, I got the longevity. I got 24 seconds. Justin Herbert.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Freddie, did you really want to be a Dodger? Did you really want to leave the Atlanta Braves after winning a championship? No. Welcome to the show, my guy.
What's up, Fredo? How you doing, my man?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to Monday Night Fredo here at the Infinity Studios in Los Angeles. It is a pleasure to have you guys here back because we know last week it was a great show. But we have one person missing in our show, and that person is here live in studio with us here today. We got the one and only, the great Arash Markazi. He's here live in studio. We're going to sit down one-on-one and talk about everything from life to sports and what's going on with the Chargers and the Rams, the Lakers and the Clippers. There's just so much stuff going on here in Los Angeles. But of course, we want to just go ahead and give a special shout out to Get Lace. Make sure everyone goes to getlaces.com and use that promo code Fredo and get 25% off. I mean, if you got shoes and you ain't got these laces, I don't know what you're doing. So make sure you go to getlaces.com, use that promo code Fredo, Fredo, plain and simple, and get 25% off. All right, guys. So real quick, just want to let you guys know the Drew League. There was an amazing weekend at the Drew League. There was a lot of upsets, but let's go ahead and stay tuned for this upcoming week and make sure everyone, if you want to go ahead and check out these amazing stars over at the Drew League, go to El Camino College this Saturday afternoon. You're going to have two great games. It's the Final Four. And we got the championship game Sunday afternoon. This is going to be incredible for everyone that's been following me on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you guys continue to follow for all the exclusive coverage at my Instagram and Twitter at Fredo Cervantes. All right, guys, make sure you guys check it out because it'll be a great weekend. Of course, you guys saw me this past week as well. I was at SoFi Stadium, Chargers, Rams, first game of the preseason. I mean, I kind of got lost in the middle of the game. I was like, wait, this game was so competitive. It was kind of evened out. The way the game ended with the interception, I was like, wow, this didn't even seem like a preseason game because all the fans were cheering, booing, and everything. I just don't know why there were any Raider fans in there because I saw multiple Raider fans inside the arena. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing here? But anyways, we'll be right back here on Monday Night Fredo with the one and only, the great Arash Markazi. We'll be right back.
United One Protection Services. With over 30 years of experience, United One Protection Services has more expertise and knowledge than the other security companies combined. Residential, commercial, municipal, or institutional, United One Protection Services does more than just security. We protect your livelihood. United One Protection Services.
And we're live here on Monday Night Fredo. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It's going to be a great show. I'm so excited. I mean, I told you guys this a few weeks ago. I mean, this man here, I looked up to him. I've seen all his work for years and years. And now he finally gets the opportunity to sit down with me here at the Infinity Studios one-on-one. We got the one and only, the great Arash Markazi. How you doing, Arash?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This actually worked out perfectly because now I get to see your beautiful studio.
Yes.
It would have been weird to kind of like call in. So, I mean, last week was a pretty cool event, Clayton Kershaw's ping pong tournament. It is my favorite event of the year because you could drink like right on the field at Dodger Stadium.
Wow, that must be great.
So listen, there was a good excuse, but at the end of the day, it worked out perfectly because I'm right here with you.
Yes, and I appreciate you for even coming down here, making it out for us, man. Yes, it's a beautiful studio. So everyone, make sure you guys check it out. Infinity Studios. You guys saw the promo during the commercial. Any questions, call that number and they'll help you out. But Arash, again, thank you for stopping by. So let's go ahead and get down and dirty with the stuff. Real quick, let the people know, the people that are out there watching right now, where you come from and a little bit about your upcoming.
So I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up a massive sports fan. My dad was a big sports fan. And, when you're younger, you don't know about genetics, or I didn't. So I thought I was going to be 6'9" point guard like Magic Johnson, the Lakers. You realize like my dad's 5'3", my mom's like 4'11" or whatever. So I wasn't going to be tall. I loved sports though, and I wanted to get involved in some way, shape, or form. So I began to write. I began to talk about it. At that point in time, though, like there was only so many ways for you to do what you love to do. So I strung high school football games. I kept stats on the field, got jobs on the side, did things in just a dream journey. I grew up because of the Showtime Lakers. And when I was in college, luckily enough, I got to work for Slam magazine. That was like my favorite magazine.
Right.
I didn't know Slam was kind of like, 6 people basically did that magazine out of New York. So when they had this college kid kind of saying, hey, like, I love Slam, like, is there some way I can help out? They're like, yeah. So like they legit credentialed me to cover games like when I'm in college.
Wow.
Kobe Shaq years, right?
Oh no.
So it was really like a dream come true. And I always tell kids now, I mean, like, if there's someone that you look up to, if there's someone that you like, just contact them. I mean, worst thing that can happen is they don't contact you back or you don't. But at the very least, maybe they give you some advice, you grab lunch, a cup of coffee. For me, it worked out splendidly. It worked out amazingly. Where Slam's like, listen, we're in New York. We're not in Los Angeles. You look like you know what you're doing. You're going to USC. You're a journalism student. So like while I was at USC, I was covering games. It was incredible.
Wow. And was USC your go-to school that you decided to?
I went to the Kronk High School of Journalism at Arizona State University. The big thing for me was I wanted to leave home. When you're a kid, I mean, I kind of wanted to do my own thing. It is a party school. Everything you've heard about, especially but back in the day, I've heard that they've changed over the years, but I was very lucky that I went when I did. I had the greatest freshman year of all time.
Wow.
Probably too much fun, where my parents were like, you probably have to come back home.
Well, tell me a little story about it. Tell me one story.
I mean, listen, I didn't really drink before I went there, and then you go there and, to this day, I cannot have like Goldschlager and Jägermeister and things like that because I'm like, oh my God, bad flashbacks. And so it was an amazing time. I wouldn't trade it for like anything in the world. It was great to go there and have that college life and experience and being away from home. So I would have loved to have stayed there. What it was, I just wasn't as productive as I probably should have been. So my parents told me you have to come back. And so I applied to USC and CSUN. And by the way, I always tell people, I'm like, CSUN has an amazing journalism school. I would hope that I had the same career regardless. But I went to USC. The perfect thing for me was when I transferred. I swear my first day on campus was Pete Carroll's first day on campus.
No way.
So my first assignment for the Daily Trojan was Pete Carroll's first press conference. And at that point, we're like, I mean, this may or may not work out. Like he's never coached in college before. He's never been a head coach in college before. But I loved like he wanted to succeed. And I didn't know how it was going to work out. They go 6-6 his first year. Year 2, though, as you know, like they take off Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. And so really blessed to be there at that point in time.
Wow, no, that was an incredible time for football because at that time there was no LA football
no pro football team. And really for a long time. I mean, we lose the 2 teams in 95. So really, since I was, in high school, college, my entire college career, no pro football. And it really kind of bugged me because I mean, people kind of said, oh, they don't care about football. I'm like, there's 100,000 fans at the Coliseum. Like, if you put a good product on the field, people will
Come
show
on.
up. It's ridiculous that they kind of knocked us for that. At the end of the day, I respect people in Los Angeles saying, listen, we're not going to pay for a stadium. So thankfully it all worked out. Stan Kroenke came back, $5 billion SoFi Stadium. It looks fantastic. And the cool thing is for you and the younger generation, the big events are beginning to come back. Because I remember when I was younger, they had the Super Bowl and the Olympics and the World Cup. And so for all those years, we didn't have those events. Now they're here again.
Yeah, so it's incredible. The Olympics a few years,
Yeah.
you got a couple. We just had the Super Bowl.
So much
You
fun.
were there. We're gonna get a little bit into that
Yeah.
a little later, but let's talk a little bit about your early years. How you became a basketball fan, a sports fan.
Yeah.
Loving Magic Johnson and the Showtime Lakers. How, like, as a kid, who put that basketball in your hand, or who put the Lakers on TV for
You know, it was my dad. My dad is just such a sports nut. He watches every sporting event. It doesn't really matter what it is. If it's late night and there's a soccer match or softball game, I mean, he's going to watch it. But the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, was such a fun team to watch. I mean, that fast break, fast-paced style. And so I just fell in love with it, and just their uniforms and their personalities, and really blessed to grow up in Los Angeles during that time period when I was a kid. You had the Dodgers were successful, the Lakers as well. But there was something about the Showtime Lakers. It was Pat Riley in the suits. It was Magic. It was Kareem. It was James Worthy. The way that they played, and I think it was 1988 was the first game that I went to, and my dad said that he was going to drive me to a friend's house to watch a game on TV. Next thing you know, you could see the form, and he pulls into the parking lot. I'm like, is he? And he got, and the tickets were all the way up in the nosebleed, but it didn't matter. I mean, it was magical. It was so magical, and at that moment, like, I was hooked. And I didn't know, in what capacity, like, I was going to be involved in sports. I mean, at that point in time, like, I still thought I was going to grow up tall and be a player, but I just knew that this is what I want to do, and this is what I love, and to this day I don't lose that. Right, when I go to SoFi, when I go to these games, there's something about being there. And I still say this, as much as I love SoFi, that press box, you don't really feel the crowd.
No.
So during the conference championship game, during those big events, I'll walk out and I'll just be amongst the fans, because I kind of need to feel that. I need to hear that.
No. I feel you 100, because at the time I spent two games in the press side for the Chargers.
Yeah.
The other games I walked down to the 200s down there. There's open sections. You can feel the vibes. I get that part. You just want to, because it feels so close, so quiet. Everyone's just, of course, you're keeping focus on the game, but you sometimes just want to feel that part. That's very, very exciting, because I've always said, because I was born in 1991. I'm just 30, so I was born a week after Magic announced HIV, because Magic announced it in November 7th. I was born on the 14th.
Okay, interesting.
So for me growing up, I grew up in the Kobe and Shaq. I was 10, 11, watching that as a kid. And now that I'm older, now that I'm doing all this, I go back and I rewatch full 80s games. I rewatch them.
So much fun.
I see the excellence of Magic Johnson and Kareem and James Worthy. It's a low-key favorite of mine. So it just feel like he wasn't given the credit he maybe deserved with all those runs they had back then. Because Worthy, of course, you saw a lot of that. Worthy had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, when you go to Game 7 when they beat the Pistons in 1988, triple double.
Yes.
I mean, that's why big game James. I mean, to have a triple double in Game 7, win most valuable player. I mean, just such a smooth player, and the way that he played with the goggles. And again, you can get lost in the mix when you're behind those two guys. But when I say like a big three before the Celtics and the Heat, I mean, that was three of the best players on the planet, no doubt about it.
No, that was crazy. But how were those years, the transition years from the 80s to the Kobe and Shaq? Because that middle time kind of gets lost a little bit.
It was
Van Exel guys and
it was tough, but we were really spoiled, because like even the years that they were in championship contenders, there was only one year that they missed the playoffs. And Jerry West was such a great talent evaluator, and he drafted so well. So, they get George Lynch and Anthony Peeler and Sadale Threatt. They kind of picked them up, and Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones and all that. And so one year they missed the playoffs. Then right after that, they're in the playoffs. But they were a good team, not a great team. And then the summer of 96 obviously changed everything. They make the deal for Shaq. They bring Shaq over. They draft Kobe. at that point, Kobe was a kid still, right? And so he wasn't Kobe yet, but you could tell who he would become. All that great drafting, by the way, like got them that team. That's why the period that they had prior to LeBron coming was so odd,
Mhm.
because I had never experienced not just that like I had not experienced, the Lakers franchise had never not gone to the playoffs, 6 years in a row, 7 years. It was just so tough.
It was tough, and for me, it was really tough. 'Cause this is a time I was growing up. I finished school, and I'm in transition period, just watching these guys. I mean, no disrespect, Jordan Clarkson's a great kid. D'Angelo Russell
Yeah.
guys, Julius Randle, when they were here, but it was something was really just missing. These weren't the Lakers, and it just felt like it was a bad timing with the Clippers emerging as a
Yeah.
top team. It made the Lakers seem like no, they're down here, Clippers are up here. But a lot of people out there, if you guys did not watch the Lakers prior to this, for the young kids right now, you guys missed out a lot because they were great. They were great. As we're talking here with the one and only Arash Markazi. So Arash, during that time, Kobe and Shaq come to LA in the late 90s.
Yeah.
The first few years, very tough, very rough. Kobe shooting those air balls,
Yeah.
Shaq and the guys kind of not clicking, coaching was not there. They bring in Phil Jackson
Yeah.
in 99. Well, what do you think really helped out Phil to just come in the first year and win it all?
It's incredible because when people want to knock Phil because he's always had talent, I really, having covered those teams, say it is amazing what Phil, I mean, Phil basically took over that same team. It's not like they went out and got big names. They got Ron Harper, who was basically at the end of his career, John Sally, who definitely came out of retirement, again, to kind of teach the guys how to play in that system. They go from getting swept by the Pistons their last year at the Forum, and I always thought that was like, okay, like you're gonna lose to the Spurs. I think I said Pistons, the Spurs. So it was the second round of the playoffs, and they get swept by the Spurs. I just thought was so bad. So their last game at the Forum, their last meaningful game at the Forum, they lose. And the only thing that they really did significantly was they bring in Phil Jackson, and there was that trust that they had with Phil, because prior to that, they had never spent a lot with the coach. So once Pat leaves, they bring in Mike Dunleavy, and Dale Harris. Dale Harris was a good coach. He wasn't a championship coach. Kurt Rambis, like Kurt, but again, not a championship coach. And so when they brought in Phil, I mean, he's basically got the rings. He's like, you guys want to win, do what I tell you. Shaq bought in, Kobe did, and that entire team came together. It is the most nervous I have been in that conference finals where they beat Portland in Game 7. But when people want to knock Phil, because I can't speak to Chicago, but from what I've heard, it was kind of like the same thing. They got to a certain point, they couldn't get past that hump, and then Phil helped them to do that. With the Lakers, I saw it firsthand, getting swept by Utah, getting swept by the Spurs, just totally like outclassed. I mean, like they're a good team, but they're not the Utah Jazz. They're a good team, but they're not the Spurs. And then Phil comes in, and not only do they win that first championship, right? They win three straight, and it just clicked at that moment.
What do you think it was? I mean, of course, we all know Kobe Shaq had bumped heads starting in 2003. I mean, it happened during the three-peat, but it started getting uglier. And it's, it started coming out there, hey, Shaq doesn't work out too much. He can be in better shape.
Yeah.
Kobe said it years later, hey, we maybe could have won 5, 6 in a row if he was in shape.
Yeah.
And Shaq responded to that afterwards. But what was it really between both of them that just couldn't click?
It was two guys who wanted to run the team. Listen, and I get it from Kobe's perspective. Shaq was so dominant. When you talk about looking at old film, look at what Shaq did in those playoff runs. I mean, we've never seen a guy that dominant, especially right now where it's all about like, the outside shot and Steph Curry and 3-pointers and the Splash Brothers. The dominance Shaq had down low back in those days, it was just crazy. So Kobe at that point was, in my view, the second best player in the league. I mean, it was such a rare time where they had the top 2 players, in my view, in the league. I get it from Kobe's perspective. Like in his mind, it was like, so if I continue down this path, like I'm just going to be Scottie Pippen. I'm not going to be viewed as the guy. And I can tell it got to him where he couldn't be the guy. And he was such a perfectionist that when Shaq would show up like out of shape, miss games, it would really say like, what the heck, man? Like, I mean, and again, Shaq's Shaq knew it was all about the postseason. It was all about the playoffs. So he didn't care about training camp. He didn't care about the beginning of the season. And there was a lot of times during the season where Kobe had to put the team like on his back. And I think he got tired of that. But I will contend here. This is my hot take. That partnership had it just could go so long. When you look at when he went to the Heat, he was finally motivated, lost his weight. They only won one championship with the Heat. I mean, Shaq wasn't going to be Shaq for 6 more years. The trade for Pau enabled Kobe to kind of experience that run where he goes to 3 straight finals, wins 2 straight. I think he probably would have done that. If Shaq and him had stayed together, they may have gone to 3 more finals and won 2. I don't agree with this idea that Shaq was going to be Shaq for 5 more years. I mean, he's a human being. He didn't want to work as hard anymore, and that's his, that really upset Kobe though.
No, yeah, I mean, he said it multiple times on the interviews. I mean, he should have, because, like you said, arguably they were the number 1 and 2 best players.
Yeah.
So it kind of really does suck in the way, like you mentioned. Hey, maybe Shaq could have taken a step back, and let Kobe be riding the bus now. And that's maybe my take right now on the LeBron and AD situation. I feel that, hey, LeBron got to take a step back.
LeBron wants to, by the way.
I hope
it's AD's job to take that mantle. I think LeBron wants to do that. I don't know. Well, first of all, like AD has to be healthy at the end of the day. So, but I think LeBron is more than willing to say, "Hey, here's my number." I think he was going to give him 23. He was going to say, like, "You're the captain. We're going to run through you." He wants to do that. I don't know if like AD wants it, and if he does want it, he still has to be healthy.
Right. And hopefully they figure some out.
Yeah,
because that's one thing that I kind of want to get into right now. We, like you mentioned earlier, they went through a tough stretch a few years ago, through that 2013 through like 2018 until LeBron got here. Those 5-6 years were very awful, very, very bad. But it did help out get those draft picks, and then later on trade for the big piece in Anthony Davis. Of course, LeBron was a walkthrough. You kind of walked in here freely. Did you ever think LeBron was going to become a Laker at that time?
I didn't, and I still remember to this day. I think it was like the July 4th weekend or something. I get the text like he's going to come to Los Angeles, and I'm like, oh my god, this was always like a dream, because here's like, it was just so bad for so long, and I knew with LeBron what he meant. LeBron meant the Lakers were going to get back to the finals. LeBron meant that he was going to bring help because of the Clutch Sports connection and all that. And so I knew the moment that happened. And by the way, it was a really good young team. And for the people out there who say like, "Oh, was that a good trade?" They won a championship, and
that's for you, Money Mike.
Oh my god, it really upsets me because they played about 67 games. They played enough of the season. They were the best team in the league. The last weekend of the season, they beat the Clippers, they beat the Bucks. They were the best team in the league. So this idea that spending 100 days in Florida didn't help them. And by the way, it didn't help them. It didn't help anybody. I feel bad for LeBron and that team, because I believe that was a championship team. And I believe at the end of the day, they were robbed of their moment, of their parade, of their rally, of winning at home or something like that. So because people forget about it or they knock it. Like, they didn't play half a season. They played basically the entire season. And instead of getting home court advantage, which would have really helped them, they would have loved that, they had to play all the games in Florida. Yes, it was in front of no fans, but those were high-level basketball games. I mean, you talk to the players who played those games. I mean, that was tough. And so I just feel bad. I feel they were robbed of their moment, actually.
No, they definitely were, and hopefully they get a chance to make that up
100%.
because they definitely deserve, even like how Kuzma said it a couple of weeks ago. He posted up on Instagram. He's like, "Hey, you know what? We need our parade." And I think it's too late. I'm not for it. Like right now,
now it's too late.
I mean, even LeBron said, "Hey, us and the Rams should have it together." Nah, let the Rams have their moment and let us get a new moment. So LeBron, get us another one.
Get us another one. Yeah,
because we definitely want to be out there. But talking about that specific time, 2020, right before that happened, the biggest tragedy of all happened, and losing the great Kobe Bryant. You had the pleasure and the honor to talk to him, interview him, not a little before that
A
happened,
little
right?
bit. It was
It was like a few
the
months.
day before, yeah, because it was the day before the first game of the 2019-2020 season, and I asked him if he was going to go to the game, and he said, "No, I'm going to be with the kids." And I brought it up, and that picture's taken in Costa Mesa, and again, we could have connected over the phone, but he said, "I mean, if you want to come by the office," and I said, "Yeah, let's chat." And it was amazing because we really talked about his family. And when we talked about Gianna at that time, kind of like there was clips about her playing basketball, and he was like, genetics are a real thing, man. Like the way that she plays the game. We talked about, where she might go to school, how she wanted to go to UConn, and how that would have been tough for him to lose his friend. Because he was really content not being involved in the game. He had done whatever he could in the game. So he was never going to be a GM or a coach or a president or whatever. He had kind of transitioned his life into his production company and things like that. But Gianna's passion for the game brought him back. So then he came to more games. But at the end of the day, he said, I just want to be with my kids. I played 20 years. I miss those moments. I miss those moments of being with them. So I want to be home. Because I said, why don't you go to more games? And that was his, it was like, it's a long drive. It's a long flight, whatever. Like, I don't want to miss those moments with my kids. And so I found out about Kobe when I landed in Miami for the Super Bowl. It was the Chiefs San Francisco Super Bowl, and my phone just like blew up. And it was all at that point it had been confirmed, and it didn't seem real. And when I heard where it was, I knew where he was going, and I knew who was probably in the plane with him. And I was just like, I totally, I called the office and I said, can I get on the first flight back home? And they're like, no, and I got it. They were like, "No, we have it covered. You're there to do your job." But it was, I mean, I was totally out of it that week. It was just tough to even focus. It didn't seem real at the time, and there's still times even today it doesn't seem real.
No, it doesn't because the crazy part about it, I was actually in Woodland Hills the
Yeah,
moment it happened, which right next door, 5 minutes away from
yeah,
where it happened, and I was in a building, second floor building. The moment I started looking on Twitter and I saw someone from Colorado, an ABC in Colorado, someone out there in Colorado posted it, and I was like, no, this can't be true. Everyone around my office was like, hey, boom, 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 this just happened. I'm like, later on, you see TMZ confirm it, and you just realize and see what that moment what just happened is like it cannot be true. It just
hmm,
cannot be true. You step outside, you see the weather at the moment, and it's like foggy.
yeah,
And apparently, later on they say, hey, they told him, they warned him that it's maybe not like a good time to fly.
yeah.
And he's done this so many times.
Oh
He
yeah,
done it to the Laker games. Of course, arriving at the Marriott all the time, just devastating to see. The moment I heard that, I got on the freeway down the 405, shedding some tears, listening to the radio and going down the 405 to Staples.
oh my god,
Got
yeah,
there right at like 11 o'clock in the morning and seeing everyone that just got together at LA Live. It was very tough. I spent the moment I got there, like at 11 o'clock, 12 noon, I didn't leave till like midnight.
wow,
A lot of people were there I know KCP was down there. Quinn
yeah,
Cook was down there
yeah,
too. There was a lot of guys down there. It was just a bad moment, but for yourself, like you were with him very closely, and I got a chance to listen to that interview, and
yeah.
hearing him talk about Gigi, and then you guys having that laughter, that conversation. What do you remember the most? Like, what's like a story that just every time you think about Kobe, like what comes to your mind? Like,
It really was about that last conversation not being so much about the game. I mean, we really talked about what he wants to do post career, what he wants to do in terms of, helping out, grow the game and being there for Gianna. And I think that's the fact that both of them were together was not surprising because they were like really attached at the hip during her time playing. And, yeah, I mean, I just remember just being thankful that I was there, and I had never, yeah, I covered him for close to 20 years. I mean, like almost his entire career. And I remember when I went to see him, I asked his, I forgot if she was a secretary, but I said, "Can you take a couple of pictures?" You know, the only reason I said that was like, I you're not supposed to take pictures or whatever, like as in your a job, but it was one of those like, he's retired. I don't know, and I when I say I don't know when I'm gonna see him again, like I'm not covering him on the regular.
Right.
So like I don't know when I'm gonna see him again. And again, I felt this connection with him. Again, the reason I think so many people felt connected to Kobe is you've known him since high school. Maybe not personally, of course, but like again, you've heard about him since high school, going to prom and being drafted, and his parents have to be there to kind of like see him
Sign.
sign the contract. It's like so you feel this connection with this kid really at the time growing up to be this grown man with a husband. I mean, he's a husband, a father. So I mean, that was the most amazing thing as well. I mean, the people who weren't Laker fans, weren't basketball fans, weren't sports fans, and the way that it affected them, the way that it hit them. But that was like the thing for me. I was like, listen, like I've known this guy for 20 years. I don't have a picture with him. So she took a couple of pictures of me talking to him. And then at the end, he's like, let's take a picture together. And I'm like, I really appreciated that. And I never posted that one. And then when he passed, I thankful that we got that moment because when you cover someone, like you learn a lot from them and just how hard he worked. I mean, it was impossible to match his determination of just I go back to when he wins the championship in 2009 in Florida, and I'm staying at the team hotel, and we're having drinks in the lobby, and I don't normally do that, but I didn't normally stay at the team hotel. He's having a Corona. I don't normally drink beer, but I'm having a Corona too. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they have a game the next day. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably should go to sleep. You should too. And he's like, all right. I couldn't sleep. I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's leaving the gym in like a full sweat.
Wow.
Like he didn't sleep. So that was like my one experience with it. But you talk to some of his teammates and stuff like that. It's like the guy just never slept. He just like worked harder. And so then you begin to realize, like, of course, he and Shaq couldn't see eye to eye. He's working so hard, and Shaq's not, and Shaq's getting all the credit. Because, and I think I wanted to talk about this. It was going to be impossible for Shaq to not be the guy on that team. Shaq was never going to pass the torch. LeBron's more of a listen. My time is done. Shaq is like
Hell no.
the way that he carried, like he's going to be the captain, right? So, and so that's why it was just kind of like a weird summer where basically Phil was gone and out. I mean, I think Kobe effectively said, if Shaq and Phil are coming back, like I'm not going to come back. And like, how crazy life would have been, because I think he was really thinking about going to the Clippers.
No.
How that would have changed things. I
No
mean,
way.
yeah, you know.
Oh man, that would have been devastating.
I
to see
know.
that. But yeah, I mean, again, rest in peace to great
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant. Truly, we miss him. It's about to be 3 years in a few
nuts.
months. It's going to be 3 years already. And one thing about it is, I was so much of a Kobe fan at the time in 2010. I have two amazing kids, Jaden and Dominic, but Jaden was born in 2010, right after Kobe won his 5th ring.
Yeah.
And I named him after him. So his middle name is Bryant.
That's
So
cool.
from that day, I knew that, all right, this is Jaden Bryant Cervantes.
Yeah.
And now I know he's very proud of his name because, how crazy it is just to lose him.
Yeah.
And I know we just recently lost another great guy in the great Vince Scully.
That
What were
was,
your last minute thoughts on Vince Scully?
That was another one where I was talking to Vin, and it was about the 25th anniversary of the Kirk Gibson home run.
Right.
And Vin was so amazing where he made notes for our conversation. I'm like, I didn't think, thanks Vin for having time to chat with me.
Right.
But I asked the acclaimed photographer of the Dodgers, John Suhu. I said, John, I'll
Right.
never ask you this again, but I'm going to talk to Vin pregame today. I need you to go up there to snap a couple pictures. and so it's just not, you appreciate that, because again, there's so many cool moments in my career that I don't have captured. Like every now and again, I do appreciate where I could say, listen, I was so lucky to be in the same press box as Vin, got to talk to him from time to time. And again, so lucky to be in Los Angeles. We had Chick Hearn, Vince Scully, Bob Miller, so blessed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing I'm gonna ask Mike right now. Hey, Mike, come snap a couple pictures right here.
Yeah.
This is a moment for me too, man. Because I mean, for you yourself, you know, you've been in the business, like you said, for so many years, especially in the LA Times, doing, you know, writing everything. I was that kid that in the early 2000s, there was no social media, there's no internet where
Yeah.
you couldn't really see the scores. My brother always like, hey, go get the newspaper, go across the street, get the newspaper, find out the score, see who did what, who's playing this weekend, and just read the storylines. And
Yeah.
that was me as a kid, always reading. And I was just a fanatic with sports. And you know, this moment right now is good because like I said, I looked up to you so many times that I'm like, I finally get a chance to speak to Arash here. Again, we got the great and the one and only Arash here in studio, but I don't want to keep you too much longer here, but I do want to touch a little bit on the football.
Yeah.
Rams, Chargers, you know, this is a whole new world now. A lot of people say, hey, well, the Chargers are not an LA team. We get it. They weren't here in LA. They weren't even supposed to be here. A lot of people say, hey, it should have been the Los Angeles Raiders.
Sure.
They should have maybe came back, but I don't know what was really happening there that kind of made them not come down here. They ended up going to Vegas, Chargers, Rams. Now here, Rams last year, they win it all. You were there, Super Bowl, SoFi Stadium. Now moving into this year, some Rams lost a few pieces, but the Chargers did something different. They loaded up on the defensive end. They got JC Jackson. They got Khalil Mack. They got a few pieces. What do you think can the Chargers do this season to maybe overcome and take the spotlight a little bit from the Rams?
The sky's the limit, really, for the Chargers. I think on paper, probably the most talented team in the league. They're in a tough spot when I just talk about the, you know, being when you're here in Los Angeles, you have to win, and they've won. The problem is that the Rams have really they got the playbook for like what you got to do in Los Angeles. You know, when they get Von Miller, when they get Odell Beckham Jr., when they make the trade for a Matthew Stafford, win the Super Bowl, not only win the Super Bowl, to win it at SoFi, I think was such a big deal because the community really got to, you know, they got to go to the game, or they got to go to like all the events during the week. So the Chargers have to win. And I really believe like they have to win the Super Bowl to kind of become that team and where it's like 1-1A, because right now it's the Rams. It also doesn't help them in the division. There's still a lot of Las Vegas Raiders fans. And the issue there is I just made that flight. It is a 41-minute wheels up, wheels down flight.
I saw that on your Twitter.
So what that effectively means is like if you're a Raiders fan in Los Angeles, we almost have 3 teams here, because I mean it's not, you could be a season, and I know there are a lot of season ticket holders because you only have to go to what 6, 7, 8 games. So I love what the Chargers have done. I think they're the best team on paper in the league. If they can actually show what they can do and win, then I think they get, because that was the biggest thing for the Clippers, and you touched on it. When the Lakers were struggling, the Clippers were good, but they weren't great. And when I say that, like, they had to at least get to the conference finals. They had to make it to the finals. They didn't do that. In Los Angeles, you have to win. The only currency that matters in this town is championship. So I really think, as crazy as this sounds, because everyone's like, oh, the Chargers don't have a chance to be the team of like, if Justin Herbert's leading the Chargers to a Super Bowl and they're having a parade and it's all about getting the young kids to remember and like, okay, Justin Herbert's the best quarterback here in town. If he can lead them to a Super Bowl and they have a run, who's to say this couldn't be Chargers town? We didn't have a team here for 21 years.
Right.
So they do have a chance. They got to do it now, though, because, I mean, the Rams have not only won a Super Bowl, they've gone to 2. They've been consistently very good.
Yeah, and hopefully they do win soon, because that Justin Herbert contract's going to come up.
That's true.
A lot of these other veterans have been in the team. They're going to also need some money. Right now there's a holdup with Derwin James's contract, but of course, the speculation out there is that deal's going to get done.
Yeah.
No doubt about, before the season starts. But it's going to be crazy to go ahead and see what's happening. And before I do let you go, SoFi Stadium, WWE, this upcoming spring.
Oh my God, yeah.
What do you have to tell us here before?
I mean, I love that it's a 2-day event, because I went to the last couple of events when it was one night, and it's just a really long day where like you begin the day so excited, and by the end you're just tired and want to go home. So it's a 2-day event now. It's very cool in terms of like there's fans from all over the world that come. The main event's probably going to be crazy because it's Hollywood. So like, you can make your own guess of who might be in it. But it's great. It's great that again, we get to have these big events back in Los Angeles. And I put it right up there with Shul because it's fun.
Yes.
I love the WWE.
Yes, same
We
here.
wouldn't have gotten this event back here without a venue like SoFi. So not only are we going to get it this year, it's going to be back in that, it's going to be back every, let's say, 6 years or something along those
that
lines.
picture that we're all looking at
This
right
is
now.
WrestleMania 9. This is Las Vegas outside in the parking lot at Caesar's Palace where they had a lot of great fights, George Foreman and all those great fights. But yeah, so that's right after Hulk Hogan comes out to pin Yokozuna for the championship, and I'm losing my mind. I'm a little Hulkamaniac.
How were you able to catch that picture though?
So they had replayed it, and so I wasn't front row, but during that moment, I kind of like snuck down on the front row. So the camera guy is panning, the front row, and I'm just going crazy. So I just paused it real quick, and I got
that's a moment to remember there all the time. It's just like the moment I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. A few weeks ago, LeBron James dunking right in front of my face,
that's awesome.
Right under the basket, and he's just coming at full speed. At times, when he dunked, his back just pushed me against the wall.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, I don't care. I'm like, he stepped on my foot multiple times. Heavy guy. And I'm like, man, go ahead, dunk all you want, because this is a moment I will always like to me, honestly, before we go greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say Jordan this, Jordan that. Jordan failed for a lot of years, and I feel that he had a lot of help.
Well, the other thing is people want to talk about he won 6 championships, or he went to 6 finals and he won 6. By the way, he played more than 6 years, so I'm never gonna knock LeBron James for going to the finals and losing. Also, he didn't have the best team. Like when the Cavs when the Cavs beat the Pistons, that was one of the greatest accomplishments of all time.
That was 2007.
Yeah, and so they weren't supposed to beat the Spurs, and his Cavs teams weren't supposed to beat the Warriors. I mean, coming back from 3-1 down, one of the greatest accomplishments of all time. So if you want to knock him for something, it's probably the 2 that he lost with the Heat. But
he should have won those, yeah.
He should have, but besides that, the ones that he lost with the Cavs, I mean, the Cavs were not the favorites regardless of whether they played the Spurs or whether they played the Warriors. They were not the favorites. So again, I'm never gonna knock LeBron for going to the finals like every single year. Jordan didn't do that.
No, he didn't. So everyone out there watching,
Jordan
didn't do that. And LeBron went through a tough time. But right now, Arash, I mean, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on here on Monday Night Fredo for everyone to watch. But every time I have a guest on the show, I give them an easy Kobe quiz. It's a Kobe quiz, 24 seconds, 8 questions. All right. 8 questions. And just answer them the way you like. Okay. All right. So real quick, technology nowadays, I got to go ahead and pull up this phone. Now it seems like I can't find it. So crazy.
So don't start the clock just yet.
Don't start it yet, Jeff. You know what? Honestly, I can't even find it. I cannot find my 8 questions on here. It is terrible, but I will go ahead and free for all right now.
There we go.
And drop it down. So from what I remember, damn, I thought I had it right here. Nope. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Give me one. Nope. Can't find it. All right. I'm gonna improvise on these. All right. Tequila or vodka?
Tequila.
All right. Of course, pretty easy. Lakers or Clippers?
Lakers.
Rams or Chargers?
You go with the Rams.
All right. Michael Myers or Jason?
Jason.
Pizza or burgers?
Burgers.
Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter.
Los Angeles or Las Vegas?
Los Angeles.
All right. And I think this is question number 8. Pick one. This is the 2 duels. Kobe and Shaq, Magic or Kareem? Ooh, making you take a deep breath right here. This is what I wanted.
Yeah, right. I'll go Magic and Kareem because that's my heyday. That's where I grew up. But listen, I got to cover Kobe and Shaq, so that's a tough one. And by the way, I'll do like I love Kobe Powell. Kobe Powell doesn't get talked about. That was like my favorite team to cover. So
no, that was great too, because I was 16, 17. I was a lot older at that time, so I
Yes,
was
you
able
remember.
to just watch that
Yeah.
that moment. But Arash, again, man, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I hope
Thank you.
I would love to have you back in the future.
Love that.
Any big stories that happen, I would love to talk to you about them. Of course, everyone, go ahead and follow Arash Markazi on Instagram and Twitter. I believe it's right there on the screen. If we can get it up there, make sure you follow him. He's everywhere. He's always flying in and out. He's always at all the big events. So make sure you follow the one and only Arash Markazi. Arash, thank you again for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, guys, I'll be having you guys back here Monday Night Fredo every single Monday, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, here at the Infinity Studios in Los Angeles. I'll see you guys next week.